Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is First Friday Spirit Talk. I'm Christopher Mitchell. I'll be your host. And today, like every time, we are opening with a short astrology segment called Christopher's Astrocast. We'll be exploring some of the current energies that you might be experiencing right now through the tool of astrology. And this month, I have kind of a little bit of a tricky thing that I wanted to break down, and I thought to make it simpler, I would use some visuals. So I'm going to do a screen share and open this up, which is an astrology chart.
Christopher, sorry to interrupt, but do you have record going?
Yeah, I think record is going. I saw that maybe Ginny pressed it. Let's see.
It's recording.
Okay. So the thing I wanted to explain is something called, so this is an astrology chart. What we're looking at right here is an astrology chart. It's a snapshot in time and space of where all the planets are at any given moment. And a really significant shift happened a couple of weeks ago that's going to inform the next year and a half for us. So what it is these horseshoe-shaped symbols here. I'll use the annotate. These are something called the nodes of the moon. And what they represent is a kind of a karmic path of direction where we're coming from one, we're cleaning up all the kind of the junk and the stuff that doesn't work about the south node, and we're learning to integrate everything that will bring more balance to us at this time with the north node. And they go around the chart, at one point you're integrating this and you're leaving behind what doesn't work about that. And 9 years later, you're integrating the other thing and you're leaving behind what didn't work about the first thing. So we're always working with this polarity and like sorting out what does and doesn't work about different energy types. And they all get their different turn in the sun, so to speak. But after a year and a half of the nodes being in, so what this is here is, I've got it set back to early January. And so I'm going to click forward in time so you can see them move. Right now, this north node here is in Gemini and the south node is in Sagittarius. They spent the last year and a half, all of 2021 and half of 2020 in Gemini and Sagittarius, where we were working on all these philosophical, intellectual kinds of energies. We were like sorting out all this stuff about the news and media and truth and what's real, all of the conspiratorial energy and like the fractioning along different belief systems was us cleaning up the energy of Sagittarius, which can have a lot to do with beliefs, and moving towards the energy of Gemini, which can have to do with clear facts and like open communication. And they were there hanging out for a year and a half doing that particular work, bringing all of that, stirring that up in our individual lives and in our collective lives. And then moving forward in time here, if you watch the nodes, this is the 15th of January, 16th of January, 17th, 18th, and right there, the little symbols next to them shifted because they moved into Taurus and Scorpio, where they're going to spend the next year and a half working on the integration point between this energy pattern instead of that other axis. And what that is all about is that let me annotate again. Here we go. So Scorpio is all of our psychological like stuff. It is all the content in our subconscious that needs to come up and process and heal and be looked at. It is deep diving, it is intimacy with others, it is doing the work, so to speak. And North Node, Taurus is really simple. It's about the body, embodiment, pleasure, being present, and having things just sort of be. So we're working for a year and a half on having all of the psychological content that's kind of stored in our bodies, stored in our minds, in our subconsciouses, coming up. This is trauma healing. This is working with subconscious layers of energy that have been informing us that we haven't realized before, that have been there. It's just all of the psychological content that creates chaos and stress in our space is showing itself to us potentially during this time, so that we can learn to release it and move towards the Taurus integration point of more simplicity, peace, and just like pleasurable presence with what is, without all of that triggering chaotic content kind of ruling our experience of the present moment. And so we work with this imbalance for the next year and a half, where we have a chance to kind of drain the wound or clean up the stuff of the Scorpio and move towards more experience of the Taurus. So it is a great year and a half to be getting massages, doing body work, going to a float tank lab, doing meditation, going for walks in nature, breath work, anything that helps you move energy away from, as Scout might put it, the jar of marbles in our head going around and around again, and let all that out so that you can be more peaceful, more present, and have more available energy now. And that is what this energy shift is facilitating, and that is where the big collective spotlight is for the next 18 months. So anything that helps you do that work, this is the time for it, and you're being supported in it. And the invitation is perpetually to come out of all of the unnecessary stress and chaos and psychological content and find more peace and okayness and safety in the present moment with everything that's here. Thanks for letting me break that all down. And it's a little bit of a technical thing, but it's so important. I wanted to make sure that I could convey it to everyone, and figure out how to stop screen sharing here. There. So that's the Astrocast for February. And now I'm going to introduce you to the rest of our panel. This is First Friday Spirit Talk, where we get together on the first Friday of every month at noon to explore different spiritual and metaphysical topics in depth. I'm here with two of my favorite psychic spiritual teachers, Reverend Ginny Brown and Scout Bartlett. And like I said, I'm your host and astrologer, Christopher Mitchell. So this month, we're going to be exploring the topic of energy fields and auras, getting into the idea of what these are, how they work, and how we can work with them. So to start off, I'll pass it over to Scout and ask, so what are energy fields and auras? And are they the same thing? Is there a distinction there? Or is it just two ways of talking about the same phenomenon?
Cool. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Chris. So, in a really funny way, in my world and how I experience the world, the question is actually more accurately, what is this real world stuff? Because everything is energy. Everything and every non-thing is energy. It's all flows of energy, shapes of energy, directions of energy, alignments of energy. Everything is energy. And so the tricky part about our own personal energy field is that lots of us build the habit of shaping ourselves to our surroundings, kind of as if we were a universal piece in a jigsaw puzzle, that whatever shape you need a piece to fit in, I'll be that shape. And so I think the biggest breakthrough in understanding your own energy field is allowing yourself to have your full energetic space, no matter what else physically seems to be in the same place. Everything has their own energy frequency, just like radio stations have their own frequencies. So you can have more than one station in the same city. Each of us has our own energy frequency so that we can allow ourselves to let our energy field, our energy space shine right out through us and through everything around us. As to energy field versus aura, and kind of a subtle distinction having more to do with how you perceive it. And so even there's a lot of debate about aura as to whether we have a single color or whether we have a mix of 7 colors or more than 7 colors. Aura is, we'll just refer to aura as being a word for a visual recognition of the tune your energy field, your personal energy field is singing mostly at the moment. Try and work with that, Ginny.
Yeah, aura is basically the radiation of your spirit's vibration, and it extends beyond. And we sometimes have a hard time working with that, because it's not something we readily see. But we also don't see radio waves or other forms of radiation. But what I like to point out is, like, when you're looking at the moon, you see its aura. You can see the energy field of things that contain light, and look at it that way. An energy field, to me, can also point to the collective energy field, like the energy field of, like, the United States or of California, to be even more specific, or to a group of people. Our energy tends to mimic, and your aura's color, because it is the emanation of the spirit, it's the radiation of the spirit, it tends to mimic things that are like it. So if I were to hold on to a lemon and really, like, kind of bond with the lemon, my aura would start to take on the color of yellow. And the same is true as if I'm around people who are really bright and vivacious. I might start to match their color, which could be like a purple or a pink or whatever. We all kind of start to vibrate together. So sometimes people put, like, a significance on the color of an aura as if it means something about you or your level of, like, spiritual ascension. There's two truths there. Yes, and you can be calling in a color that you just like the most. If I really like that yellow lemon, I'm going to vibrate at that color, and it can have to do with the chakra that it's related to, but it also can just be me mimicking something that I enjoy.
What's the distinction there with the energy field? So it's like, I guess this really explains how people do things like crystal work, where they're holding a particular grounding stone or something, and it influences their aura. Would you say, even though their aura is affected by the thing that they're resonating with, their energy field remains their own energy field, the stone's energy field remains its own energy field, and, like, the aura is how they're interacting?
I don't think that there's that much, like, specifics between those words, between aura and energy field. It's more about, it's a very subtle difference. An energy field is basically an aura, and an aura is basically an energy field. I don't think that there's a distinct difference between the two.
That makes sense.
And there's a real key place, Christopher, if I can jump in, because there's a lovely real world example. Large grocery store chains spend scads of money researching the exact playlist of music to have in their stores at different times of day. And so at the times of day when the store is less busy and they'd like people to sort of get lost wandering up and down the aisles and finding impulse purchases, they play slower music. And at the moments in time when the store is going to be busy and they'd like everybody to just get through the store and get their stuff up to the register so they can crank people out as fast as they can, they play music that's more upbeat and gets people zipping right along so that they don't necessarily get so lost. Somebody working with a crystal, somebody toning, somebody working with tuning forks. My brain wanted to say pitchforks, and I knew that wasn't it. But somebody working with tuning forks, or even Ginny or myself working with our own energetic adjustments and energetic radiance, kind of in the same line as the music soundtrack in the grocery store, except a little more subliminal, a little more specific, in encouraging the client or the group or the room full or the whatever, encouraging that those to resonate to those frequencies. And if that frequency has been silent in them, it's sort of like bumping on the place where they've been dampered. So that's bumping on that so that that frequency can come forward in them, which the word for that is healing. And then we've got the whole color spectrum. There we go. That as we walk through our chakra system, just to give people the basic backgrounds, the chakras, just out of convention, are numbered 1 to 7 from bottom to top. That's the ones inside the body. There's way more energy centers than that. But they are: the first chakra, bottom of spine, red; second chakra, mid-abdomen, orange; third chakra, solar plexus, diaphragm level, yellow; fourth chakra, heart level, green; Fifth chakra, base of throat, blue. Sixth chakra, center of head, indigo, which is that blue-black. If you want to study it, go outside and look away from the sunset and watch as the sky turns indigo. And then seventh chakra, crown of the head, is lavender or purple. And so if someone is visually perceiving our auric emanation, they're actually getting the combination of all of those into whatever color that blends to up there, in that little metal lid of your little kid watercolor set. When you start blending colors, you get whatever dominant color comes forward.
Is there an ideal or a natural healthy state for our energy fields? And
Yeah, lit up.
So lit up. And how do they get misshapen or dampened down, so to speak?
Well, chakras can get overpowered by each other, and we can also shut a chakra down or shut an energy center down that can affect that. And so ideally we want to have our energy system in a natural state where our centers feel open and that we're able to experience life, as multi-dimensionally as possible, but you want to have an aura that feels balanced and is covering all sides of you, in front, beside, behind, above, below. And it's a really, and when we experience, sometimes a therapeutic thing that I do is balancing auras, is to look at where an energy field or aura has like shifted to take care of or to compensate for another, and rebalancing those things. See what beliefs or things have been activated that are preventing the aura from being in balance. Like, why is that chakra shut down? So, really you want your system to be operating at its highest intelligence, which may mean at a given time, if you're crossing a street and a car is coming your way and you're going to get hit by that car, that your first chakra opens up and that fear activates you to get out of the way of the car, which may mean your aura is operating at a high red or kind of an intense fiery energy until your system feels safe that you're out of the way of danger. So, there, you want it to kind of have its own intelligence and to be unblocked. And sometimes that requires healing and experience to get there.
And I'm carefully covering up the name. When I'm working with people, this is the sort of thing I end up tracking and perceiving the first time we work together. And I think the ink is showing up. I'll get closer for parts of it. Where I get fascinated into or drawn into, or part of my quirky knack is noticing flows and shapes of flow. And then that gives me indicators of things going on, such as in this particular client, right here at heart, there it is, right there at heart, they've got heart sort of extended out, reaching. And then the different things. So that's just sort of my map as I roll through so that I know who they are and what's going on. But in my quirky way of perceiving things, it's got a whole lot to do with energy flow, and those energy flows have to do with patterning. Whether that patterning came from whether they brought it in, or whether it was an imprint while they were in the mother's womb, or whether it's decisions, choices that they've made along the way that they imprinted to or chose to or built as part of their logical structure. Or phrased completely differently, all of us have a core essence that is who we really are, and it gets wrapped around by our stuff in the way, which is our lessons. Core essence is the who we really are part. Our lessons we experience as our stuff in the way. I see them as energy tangles. We could see them as psychological confusions. We could see them as old wounds and scarring. That's the popular one at the moment. Old trauma. Excuse me, goodness. Live television, we gotta love it. But really, it's our lessons. So we could say that on one hand, for that client, these various tangles that I'm looking at in their energy field are the stuff that's tripping them up in life at the moment. From another angle, those are the parts of their energetic lessons, their karma, their energy tangles that are up for them to learn at the moment, that are showing up in their life to be present and be forward in which lesson they're working on now.
Are there any particularly like common imbalances or issues with energy fields that either you run into as you're doing client work, or does it really run the gamut depending on one's karma and set of lessons? I wonder if there's things that people might key into as understanding like, oh, this is something that a lot of people get imbalanced around, and maybe I'm imbalanced in that way too, and I can adjust there, you know?
Well, what we hold on to is our common issue. Like in your aura, there is information stored from this life, like what Scott was saying, these imprints, right? Past life related, this life related, some yours, some not yours. But if you imagine it like you're putting on a pair of sunglasses, right? You're going to see through that tent, through the tent that's prescribed on those glasses. Your aura is the same way. So you can't necessarily see that unless you're trained and or have a high level of clairvoyance. But what happens is we are seeing life through those projections, and we may not necessarily be able to even perceive it. So to me, the common issues that we experience are the stored information that's unresolved in our aura, in that energy field. And so that can, color the life as we're living it. So as those things get clear, so does your vision. You start to see and perceive life differently. And it's kind of a cleansing process. And so it's like you're taking off, a pair of sunglasses or a pair, something that's distorting your vision.
One of the pieces I bring forward when I'm teaching consciousness, when I'm teaching people to come aware, and that I always like to point out is that there's stages of growing awareness. To jump back to Chris's question, the single commonality that we'll see most will be fear and separateness. But one of the pieces that I always like to point out is that as you do whatever practice you might do, all of my practices are meditation based. As you do whatever practices you might do to expand your consciousness and your awareness or to expand your energy field, level 1 development, you start to see everybody else's patterns in neon bright glaring light. It's so frigging obvious that they're stuck in their pattern, and you're annoyed, and if you're a little judgmental, you're annoyed about it and you wish you could just pop them out of their pattern so they would get their head straight. Biggest thing I like to point out is when you get to that place where you're seeing everybody else's patterns, that doesn't mean that you just got enlightened and you're in charge of the world. Keep that information to yourself, unless they ask. Because the next level of development is when you start to see your own patterns, rather than them just being part of the landscape, rather than them being the color of the lens you're looking through. You start to actually see, you start to have a witness where you can be seeing your own patterns from outside of them. And then you can witness everybody else's patterns more as that's an interesting flavor. Do I have that flavor going on in me? As opposed to they're so wrong they should get over their pattern. It's more like, ooh, where have I got that one? Have I got that one dialed down, or is that one actually running as part of my habitual landscape? So it's a walking forward consciousness project. It really is about awareness and consciousness. But in truth, it really is all about untangling the tangles you brought in that were the lessons that you took on as you're part of a collective wholeness for you to solve that part of the puzzle. Always remember that it's always about, if you've bumped into a blockage, what you've bumped into is a piece of pattern that now you're finally seeing as an impediment, rather than not seeing it because it's just part of your normal. But if you ever have a chance to talk to siblings, it's always fun to talk, if you have siblings, it's always fun to chat with them about significant events in your history that you wouldn't normally talk about because you're shy, and find out that they had a completely different event, even though they were in the same place at the same time with the same people and the same background. That's the filters.
When you were speaking there, you mentioned kind of the expanding one's state of consciousness, expanding one's presence and awareness, and expanding one's energy field. And I wonder, I think this will lead well into the meditation in the midsection of our show, is so do we need to consciously expand out our energy field, work with our energy field, or is it something that naturally heals and expands and sorts itself out as we do the work with our thoughts, with our patterns, with other parts of our energy?
Let me grab that one real quick because I misspoke, Christopher, within this discussion. When I said as we expand our consciousness and our awareness, and I reference expanding our energy field, a correct way for me to have said that would be expanding our energy flow. The focus is expanding the energy flow. Expanding your energy flow does expand your energy field the same way that turning up more juice through the light bulb, the old well, any light bulb, turning up more juice through the light bulb expands how far the light bulb radiates, assuming it's set up that way. Don't try that with some of your LED bulbs, but it's expanding our energy flow. And the process of expanding our energy flow, it's really fun to recognize that the faucet on the sink in your house does not make the water flow. Even though we think of it that way, I turn on the faucet, that makes the water flow. In truth, when you turn off the faucet, it keeps the water from flowing, right? And when you turn on the faucet, then the water pressure that's already there gets released and the water flows through past the faucet and, hopefully into the sink and not on the floor. Same way with our energy flow, that uplift of energy through us to source and that connection of energy from source through us to earth, that's there and ready to roll. All the rest of our progress and moving forward is us getting us out of the way. Rephrase is us finding the places where that flow is constricted, bent, or restricted, and unconstricting, unbending, and unrestricting the flow to let it flow, and then that lights us up. I know Ginny's got something to say there.
Well,
she's there on my camera.
Aura expansion, you can find out like where your aura's at, if it's kind of in a tight state or in an expanded state, by how much personal space you feel like you need in a moment. So if you are feeling kind of tight and restricted and like people are on top of you constantly, regardless of how close they are, your aura is probably very, very close to your body. And that can happen because we're sick, or that can happen because we feel in danger. There's a lot of different causes to that, but it does reflect to us this part of the experience. And it may also have to do with like if you live in a city or not. People in a city tend to have the need for less personal space. They live in closer quarters to each other. There's only so much space on a sidewalk, where someone who lives in a more rural part of the country or state or whatever, their aura or energy field, personal space may also be kind of wider, more expanded, because they're used to having more space. So the ideal, what was explained to me by many teachers in my psychic development, is that you want to have roughly your aura around 18 inches all around you on all sides, which is about the length of your arms. And so this is a good amount of personal space. And so if it's really, really tight and there's no need for that, you want to push it out, because what happens is if your aura is really tight to your body, is people are going to approach to the edge of your aura. So while you're feeling tight and restricted and like pulling your energy in, people are also going to come closer because they're not feeling the edge of you. And so we tend naturally to flow into that unless we have really, really terrible boundaries. But we typically can feel someone's aura and respect that space pretty naturally. So if you also feel like people are inside your business, or you're absorbing other people's thoughts, or you recognize like that doesn't belong to me, or all of that, your aura could be really, really wide and trying to caretake for people around you or things like that. So you want to call it back into a place where it's like my personal space, right? And so I typically do that in meditation by imagining my aura and my field kind of meeting the edges of my hands like that, and going above, below, behind, and in front of my personal space, just as a way of working with that.
You can hear there how it reflects the energy patterns about what we think we need to take on, what we think our boundaries can be, what we think our ability to have space for ourselves is reflected in how much we let ourselves have.
And it always attracts the opposite, which is a big part of, when we're experiencing things that we don't necessarily want.
Do you two remember whose turn it is to do the meditation this time? Scotty
Yeah, I
B.
think it's me.
Okay.
Cool. Welcome. At the half-hour break, when we're doing our first Friday Spirit Talk, we'll do a meditation, so I'll invite you to join in with us. And you can mentally note that if it's a first Friday and for some strange reason you've allowed something else to be more important than us, you could still take that moment right at the half-hour break, whatever time that is on your part of the planet, and just take 3 minutes and be in that meditative state and connect with us anyway, even if you're not tuned in. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, first off, please click subscribe. I think it's there. But also, the energy flow is going to work there as well. So I live in a practice of allowing because I'm an empath, I had a tendency to scrunch myself and shape into the gaps between everybody around me. And it was a major breakthrough when it really dawned on me that we can radiate on our own frequency, and we can tune our own frequency and have a pure message on our own frequency, which is our energy radiance or our energy field. And there's a lot of languaging issues here. So that's what we're going to play with right now, is the thing that we've referred to as the live beam meditation. And we're also going to do a little bit of work real quick. So we're doing some in-depth work for you today. We're going to do a little bit of work really quickly on releasing one place in your life where you collapse yourself in. So probably easiest for you to focus if you let your eyes go closed. And just draw in a long, deep breath till your lungs are full and let that air flow out again. And as you're ready for another breath, let it be a long, deep breath. And this time, imagine that air flowing out through your body as if your body was made up of layers of silk or fabric. And with each breath, let the air flow in and let it flow out through your body, feeling your body open and expand. And in your imagination, imagine reaching down toward the center of this planet Earth and stirring that warm, rich, dense energy. Curl that imaginary hand into a cup and use that cupped hand now to pull a surge of energy from the center of the Earth right up through the Earth directly beneath you, up and into your body right at your tailbone. It's just energy passing through energy. And let yourself feel that connection there so that you're connected, earth core, right up through the earth, into your body, just in front of your tailbone. It's your first chakra. Let that warmth match, and focusing on that connecting point now, stretch that surge, that streamer of energy, that increase of energy. Stretch it up through your low abdomen, second chakra. Stretch it up past your solar plexus, third chakra. Stretch it up past your heart, fourth chakra. Deep inside your body, though, just in front of your spine. Don't go find it if you've got it out in front of your body. Bring it back into your body, just in front of your spine. From throat chakra, stretch it up to the middle of your head. Stretch it up to the top of your head, and stretch it on out the top of your head and all the way up and into what I'll just call source. Big energy cloud up overhead somewhere. And having connected it now, using your will, increase that flow of energy up that stream. Simply will it so. Feel it, imagine it, picture it, decide it, will it. Increase that flow more, richer, denser, faster, brighter, more. And that will actually begin to support a glow from deep inside of you. And as you increase that energy flow up that beam, allow it to let that glow expand right out through you and right out through everything around you. Floors, chairs, walls, ceilings, people, baby ducks, baby rhinos, whatever you got in your area. Breathe to that and let yourself relax all of the grip that you've had constricting that flow, constricting that radiance, constricting that glow. Relax all of it and simply let that energy beam surge up through you, geysering, fountaining into that energy cloud source, and allowing your glow to glow out through you and around you. And I'd like you now to imagine, keeping track of you with that beam of energy and glowing, I'd like you to imagine a person that you sort of like buckle up, fold in, get angry, get upset with, collapse in front of, and imagine them right there in front of you. And notice visually, feeling-wise, color-wise, sense-wise, freedom-wise, whatever, notice your response to imagining that person right there in your face. And still imagining them there, bring your focus back to that beam of energy from the center of the earth right up through you into source, and willfully increase it again. And this time allow that glow to glow right out through you and right out through that challenging individual in your world. I know your brain's going to scream about energy cooties or you're going to get their flavor. It's not how it works. Just let that glow right on through them. Allow them to be transparent to your energy field and included in your energy field. And breathe again. Notice any place in your body that has constricted and breathe to that. Let it relax and open to allow you to glow in front, behind, above, below, beside. Really radiate that light out behind you. And right through that. Now, just to sort of put some dessert on this, imagine some being that you find yourself responding to joyfully. Human, rookie human, baby person, dog, cat, pet elephant. And notice your response to them. And again, breathe and allow your glow to pass right through both of these people that you've imagined in front of you. Just right on through them as if they're transparent to it. You being you, lighting your light as differentiated from you, tuning you to them or shaping you to them. There you go. Another big breath into your body. Let your light shine. Reinforce that image of you with a beam of energy right up through you. And give your body that big breath. And now you can let it bring your eyes back open and bring you right on back into our imaginary Zoom room. Welcome back. And so just to speak to that for a moment, in my practice, and my practice doesn't fit everybody, there was they still exist, but early on there was a really popular school in the Bay Area that had the word psychic in their name and one city name. And the individual that formed the school, their practice had a lot, way more than what Jenny just described, of compressing your energy and shielding to keep everybody else out of it. As the school progressed, I kind of noticed that it moved more in the directions I was moving as it progressed, and then as he turned it over to the people that succeeded him, it went even more in that direction. But in my own practices, what I found was that it took a lot of energy for me. It took a lot of energy to be carrying shields to hold everybody out. And in fact, if I'm going to hold a shape out, I have to match that shape to push against it. And so in my practice and in my experiences, what I noticed was that if instead I went for the purity of tuning myself to me, and it's an ever-progressing thing, I do it better now than I did it 30 years ago, but when I went for the purity of tuning to me and then letting that light shine out through me so that no matter what was in my surroundings, I was still my frequency, no matter what anybody else was broadcasting, that was a real doorway to me that allowed me to have my full energy field, my full energy flow, my full light, and let everybody else be whatever they had going on. But what I noticed was everybody tends to match, just as Ginny said, she's that way. Just as Ginny said, everybody tends to match the most consistently held energy in the space. I decided it was way more fun to be the most consistently held energy in the space than it was to tend to match to it, except when I went and had the opportunity to be in the audience with the Dalai Lama, when I was in the audience with, say, for example, some musical performers that I really like, Barbra Streisand. I would match energy with Barbra Streisand all day long, every day. Everybody has a tendency to match the most consistently held energy in the space. If you choose to be consistent in how you're holding your energy, you can watch entire spaces and groups of people around you migrate toward matching to that. It's a fascinating thing to watch. Not that we're taking dominance over everybody, but I'd much rather be choosing my energy state and observing the energy states that are matching around me. Because quite frankly, if I'm having a day and I notice everybody I'm encountering is grumpy and every electronic thing I encounter is grumpy, it's time for me to retune because that's what the mirror says. But at the same time, if I watch energies around me, people around me tune towards seeing, having perception, opening their perception, yeah, then I know my lights are on. That was a whole long thing, sorry.
It's okay. Within that, within the broadcast of your own frequency and the glowing out through everything, is there also a layer for you of having a kind of a personal energetic aura as well, sort of like how Ginny described, or is your practice different in that it's the consistent broadcast through everything and then nothing gets in because you're kind of, I don't know, how would you put it?
The consistent part that's me is me. And so the consistent part that's me is my awareness and my consciousness. Our energy field does have layers to it, the same way as our winter wardrobe has layers to it. But unlike our winter wardrobe, that's an even better example. There are actually Eastern teachers that can sit in a loincloth in the middle of a blizzard and be comfortably warm, not because they have shielded the blizzard out, but because they're simply not allowing their body, I'm not at that level, but they're simply not allowing their body to attune to or match to the blizzard. And so they're aware of this is body and this is blizzard, and my body's tendency might be to match the cold, but my willfulness is for my body to be my body and the blizzard to be the blizzard. So there certainly are layers of how close things are inside my emotional geography. The key part being that yes, I do radiate from the core of me, so the core of me is different than the furthest radiance of my energy field. And my light is about camp lantern and having my world cast no shadow. So it's not a what does or doesn't get in. It's a what does or doesn't have me match to it. I can ride in the elevator and find that I'm walking out humming 101 strings doing a Beatles tune. Or I can ride in the elevator and be in my own space and not match to the music. Old term, I don't think music even exists anymore, but anyway. I can be out among people and be my own consciousness and not match to the most consistently held. So it's not, in my world, it's not a mental construct of letting anything in or not. It's a mental construct of matching to or being my own choice and allowing it to be whatever it is.
It's about personal authority.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having personal authority over your
and personal responsibility.
Yeah, with that, with that ownership comes responsibility.
Absolutely.
And so, like when you are your own authority, you're less affected, by girlfriends who are in a constant negative mind space, or you're less affected by the news. You're not giving it away so easily.
Yeah. And so my practice becomes the same way that there are Zen communities where they, at irregular intervals, ring a gong, and what you are to do if you're in the community is when the gong rings, you notice where your thoughts had wandered off to, and then you bring yourself back to your chosen spiritual focus. And it's irregular because otherwise your mind would catch on to the rhythm of it. And just like the dog knows when it's 5 o'clock and it's dinner time, your mind would say, "Oh, look, I'm spiritually perfect." My Zen gong is anything that causes me to clench, punches my buttons, causes me to go tilt. That's my Zen gong in the world, whether it's the news or the negative attitude friend or the client that just told me a poignantly heartbreaking story. My first response is to A, note my response. I don't deny it. Have my feeling, have my response, and B, be my energy flow. Have my feeling, be my energy flow. Have my resonant response, be my energy flow. And come back to it, and come back to it, and come back to it, and come back to it. And some days come back to it, come back to it, come back to it, come back to it, come back to it. Come back to it again.
I kind of like, I'm getting from that, it can be helpful to kind of feel where that aura is at in terms of like, if things are feeling tight, if you're needing personal space, and work with it kind of through whatever practice. Sorry, this isn't being clear. I mean, like what Ginny was describing about the aura around her and how she pushes it out. But at the same time, there's also this sense of, even beyond my own personal space, that I might want to have a feel for. It's important, like, to not collapse my sense of self, to feel like who I am fundamentally as like a worthy being on earth, deserves to fill up the whole planet with my light, to just expand infinitely outward and not have to collapse back out of unworthiness or out of fear that it'll be too much for others or whatever, which doesn't mean I have to get in their personal space, but light shines out without boundary, right? Light
Oh, there's some words I'm sorry, Chris. At this point, there's a place where I've got to adjust some words. First, I want to acknowledge you would feel where your aura is. Ginny would see where her aura is. I have clients who would taste or hear where their aura is, or smell for that matter. So just that verb. But it's not fill the planet with my energy. It's allow my frequency, my energy to radiate and shine through the planet. The planet can do whatever it wants. It's not get in their space. It's allow my energy and my light to shine through the space they occupy. They can do whatever they want in their own frequency, in their own space. Because, everything's energy. In truth, even though it looks like you're sitting where you're sitting and I'm sitting where I'm sitting and da-da-da-da-da, in truth, there isn't any place. It's only energetics. And so me allowing my view, my practice is allowing my light to shine through their energetic space. Now, to align with what I heard Ginny saying, is for me to do that, I have to make sure that I'm very aware of what is me, to allow me to be what is me and not be dancing to what is not me. Unless I like the dance they're playing, in which case, I'll go with it. Ginny, does that translate into your pictures at all?
Yeah. Well, it's the empath dilemma is when you don't know what's yours and where it's not, where you don't know the edge of your aura and you blend and you start to take other people's energy mixes with yours.
Yeah, chameleoning.
And children tend to do this a lot because, especially below the ages of like 3, they don't really speak the language of the adults around them. So they have to feel into what mom and dad or whomever are experiencing in order to find their own levels of safety. And so there's a way of that becoming a tool that kind of carries through life, of like, let me go into their energy and feel where they're at, and in even more significant relationships or relationships that cause fear, is you leave some of your energy in that person's field so you constantly know where they're at, so that you constantly have a feel of that. And usually that makes us feel pretty anxious, like we might be feeling things of theirs that don't belong to us, most certainly, on a consistent basis. You're like, it's a Tuesday afternoon, why am I anxious? Like, the sun is out, there's nothing wrong, why am I anxious? Well, you've taken some of their energy, they've taken some of your energy, and it's merged. And you're no longer just experiencing your own. And so we tend to do that for safety. We tend to do that seeking some level of security with the people that we love, out of concern for them, out of concern for ourselves. Fear is typically the driver.
Yeah.
So what Scout's talking about as someone who works with energy is important. It's like, oh, that's my emotional reaction to what they're saying. I need to come back to my flow and not merge with theirs.
Yeah. My language for that as a kid was that I would be chameleoning. Mm-hmm. If I wanted them as my friend, if I wanted my parents happy, if I wanted them to be a girlfriend candidate for me, I would chameleon, and whatever shape they were showing me, I would shape myself to that energetic shape, chameleoning myself, forming myself to them. And then if I was concerned about what they had going on, I've got my core essence energy, but if I was concerned about what they had going on, I would covertly, the other word for that is casting cords. I would send out energetic cords from me and plug them into them to be sort of monitoring them. Well, if I've got this person I'm monitoring, and 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 this person I'm monitoring, pretty soon I've got all of my energy stretched out into other people and not enough of it left to sort of run the train and blow the whistle on this end.
Thanks for helping me connect the dots on some of that stuff there. I think we're hitting on a topic that, and we're already kind of stepping into it here, but a really important question around energy fields is what happens when one energy field meets another energy field out in the world?
Brown cow.
What was that?
You didn't catch that?
Something about a brown cow?
I said brown chicken, brown cow.
Oh, okay, I get you. That throwback to our Scorpio season episode.
Yeah. They feel each other out. That's typically what they do. They just feel each other out. We meet energetically before we ever meet in any other way.
It's how we get a sense
And
for one another.
everybody has a tendency to match to the most consistently held energy field in the space. Or the other option is be your energy and experience your response to them. But yeah, there's a whole lot of tendency energetically to either cord in or shape to.
I had the thought of this question because I know I've been doing a lot of work with you recently, Scout, around having an expanded energy field and not collapsing one's self when they meet another and get triggered by them, right? And so it's like there's the possibility of broadcasting our frequency or our sovereignty, whatever it might be, out just naturally, but then sometimes because of trauma or triggers or fear and nervousness in our field, when our energy field meets another energy field for whatever reason, we might collapse in on ourselves rather than just letting the two shine through each other, right?
Yeah, it's sort of a play out on chameleoning, but it really is. It's also, if you look in the animal kingdom, uh, I distinctly know this with dogs and cats, but I assume it carries across in lots of others. But if you watch dogs at a free run dog park, if you watch well mannered dogs in a free run dog park, you'll watch dogs approach each other, and then when they really want to play with the other dog, a lot of the dogs will drop down on their back and show their belly. It's a submission. There's a wonderful teacher, Alison Armstrong, teaches fabulous stuff to women about understanding women and understanding men as being different creatures. Being their own creature. Let me phrase it that way. But one of her comments that is one of the challenges in relationship is her comment is, if you meet that person that just rings your chimes, you can't do a relationship with them. Now, I don't totally agree, but I do agree with her thought, because her thought on it is if they totally ring their chimes, you're going to be so desperately trying to go belly up to try and please them so that you don't lose them, that, it's the old spend money I don't have and buy things I can't afford and go on vacations that I can't afford to make sure that I'm doing enough to win them, sort of a thing, or, make promises that I wouldn't really want to keep, or make commitments. And, there's that whole place where energetically, if what we're wanting to do is win them or have them be okay with us, a lot of us, particularly the empathic end of the spectrum, although I suspect it shows up visually as well, there is that tendency to sort of like, oh, I've goofed up. Let me get into, because our parents taught us that if we got really, really, my household, if I got sorry soon enough, the lecture would end sooner. My house did a lot more lecture than it did physical stuff. But certainly if I got sorry sooner, then the carefully done, administered, barehanded, to the bottom spanking would end sooner. But if I got sorry soon enough, if I got truly contrite into submissive soon enough, the lecture ended sooner for a while, and then they caught on to that, and then it didn't work anymore. But going submissive is part of our attempting to assuage, please, play up to, make them okay with us. And the truth is, if y'all, I had a friend that I really like dogs. I really like cats. I like them a lot. Usually they like me. And I had this friend that had a dog that had old trauma. And I would notice that when the dog would cower when I walked in, or when I leaned over to offer it a hand, not to reach at it, but to offer it a hand, when it would cower, there was a piece of me that sort of wanted to get mad at the dog for cowering. Don't you know who I am? Works the same way between people. When we collapse in around people, people don't find themselves reassured thinking we're wonderful and loving. They find themselves edged.
I would think that the remedy to that is to get more and more okay with ourselves rather than looking for it in them. And that's maybe where there could be a point of divergence between what your teacher was saying about if they really ring your bells, maybe they're not the best match. I'd flip it and say, if they really ring your bells, and they show you where your upper limits on receiving and worthiness are, they're a great match, because you get to open up to receiving.
They're a great lesson, but you're going to have to make sure that you stay vigilant to not be, let me write bad checks just to make sure you think I'm great, psychologically, financially, whatever. But the whole place of it is, I'm embarrassed to use this, but I don't know, 3, 4 months, 6 months, 10 years ago, a while back. It's been a minute. we did one of these several months ago, and in the middle of it, I imploded energetically. That's how I'll phrase it. And suddenly was in a huge state of I'm unworthy. You know, Ginny's amazing, and Ginny speaks beautifully, and I just talk like an old engineer, and and I imploded. And what I did with that on live was be willing to be who I am, cop to who I am, and walk back forward. Not that that's a brag. That was my reflex. It's an illustration. But I adore this girl. I think she's amazing. I think how she teaches is just spectacular. I have huge waves of I'm not worthy and how sweet it is that she allows me in her space and to share this show with you guys. And that is my cue to make sure that I come back to me and shine my light and light my light back up and be my presence. But the tricky part is be willing that I am me and be willing to be seen as me. And as they say, let the chips fall where they may. And hope I didn't offend anybody by referring to Ginny as girl. This amazing woman, human being, but, sorry.
I don't think they're listening well if they're going to get offended at the word choice when you're in the midst of praising someone's respectability,
I can always hope.
The energetic intention there was obvious. Ginny, do you want to share
come back from that, dear?
And anything that's on your heart around this topic that you wanted to get through before we wrap up?
When it comes to like what Scout's talking about, and I think it is really important to establish your authority over your energy and to recognize that you can respect another person's authority in their energy, and it doesn't have to be a submission or a power play. That everyone can have their own level of autonomy of their energy, and also like it doesn't always have to be so in a hierarchy. There can be a level of respect across the board for people's energy. And I find that just in being a teacher and things like that, when I present myself in ownership and authority of me, and I respect other people's authority, no matter where they are, even if they are playing it more submissive, kind of like lower student level, like I'm so new to this, or, whatever kind of insecurity is showing up. If you tend to lean towards respecting where they're at versus like creating that hierarchy, it allows them to expand and come into ownership of their space without it being triggering. And so it's a delicate balance, but I think sometimes that supernova-ing third chakra, which is all about power and energy, and it's kind of at your solar plexus, it can supernova out and want to make everything about that, and so just to really kind of consciously come back to a place of like respecting where another person's energy is, regardless, of where it is. Could be tight, could be restricted, could be, blown way out. Just let them be in where they are and just be respectful of that.
Well, that's a show. Thanks for coming, everyone. I don't. Sorry, should I say something different?
Perfect.
Okay. Moon's in Aries today, a little bit of an impulsive bent to things. And yeah, thanks for coming. It's great doing this. And we'll be back on the first Friday. I am having a nervous day, but we'll be back on the first Friday of next month at noon for the next First Friday Spirit Talk. My name's Chris Mitchell. If you want to do some astrology work, my email is unlimitedastrology@gmail.com. And I am doing a 30% off thing for new and returning clients for February. So feel free to hit me up if you're curious about that. And I'll let Ginny and Scout tell you what they're up to, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Reverend Ginny Brown. You can find me right there. Hit me up for individual, couples, animal sessions, whatever's on your heart. Come find me.
Cool. And I'm Scout Bartlett. A part of how I tithe to the universe is I produce and host a radio show that broadcasts in San Francisco every Monday and Wednesday at dark 6 a.m. But we also stream it online on our website, and we archive them up on our website. You can go in and play. There's, 500 hours of teaching about metaphysics and personal awareness in there that you can download. We'd love to have you do that. If you're watching this on YouTube, please, wherever that button is, I think it's there, click subscribe. We don't care if you ever come back. We just need the numbers. So, gather up your whole outlaw embroidery gang and get them all together to do a huge demonstration by getting their millions of friends to all subscribe to our YouTube channel just to make some demonstration of something. This show comes from the heart, from every three of us, from every one of the three of us. We produce it as our gift to you. We certainly appreciate the donations that help support the technical side of things, but we produce the show as our gift to you. We hope you'll come back. We hope you'll explore the YouTube, but we really hope you'll do two things. One, treat yourself as a loved one, because you truly are. And just notice that no matter where on earth you are, it's a perfect day for you to have a great day on purpose.